Good morning. Good morning, dear students. In the previous class, we discussed the process of reading. In that process, the first step is recognition of words, and second one, perception, and third one, comprehension, and the fourth one we discussed association. Right? Today, let us discuss purpose of reading. Purpose of reading. The purpose of reading can be discussed as follows. The purpose of reading may be to gather information. To gather information. People read various texts. People read various texts, books, and other materials for gathering information of various kinds. Okay, so when we want to gather the information, apart from listening a few people, the individual may collect more information from the written text and the books and the other material. Okay, to gather the information. We use such material to gather the information. Okay, if our purpose is to gather the information, then we may do all these things. We may collect the information. That's why when we read something, our purpose may be to gather information, right? Another one, education. Okay, of course, education is mandatory for all the people, all the children, and people read to educate. Okay, from the schooling to the advanced higher education, advanced studies, or we can say higher education. In all this process, reading is an inevitable process. Reading is an inevitable process to acquire the knowledge. Okay, to get the education. Okay, so people read to educate. Okay, here two purposes here: to get education, to teach others. In this both conditions, people read. Okay, as a student, you may read to get knowledge, to be educated. As a teacher, I may read the books, but my purpose is to educate others, to educate the students. Okay, so people may read to educate others. Other people may read to be educated. Okay, in such a way, generally we may read. For that purpose, we may read. Education. For the education purpose, we may read. Another one, acquiring skills. Acquiring skills. Okay, we may read to acquire the skills. Okay, so reading is done with the intention of acquiring some skills, maybe physical or mental. Okay, so those skills, maybe language skills, we can say. Even by reading, we can develop our language skill. By reading, we can develop our comprehension skill. By reading, we can develop our creativity. By reading, we can develop good manners. By reading, we can develop good culture. These are all the things we can acquire. These are all the skills we can acquire. Okay, and then to acquire the skills, we may read. Okay, so our purpose of reading may be to acquire some skills, right? Another one, instruction. Okay, so reading of the text. Reading of the text or report is essential for issuing instructions and orders to the subordinates. Okay, sometimes when we want to instruct, or when we want to give instructions to the others. Okay, when we want to give some orders to the subordinates, then first we should read how the order should be given, how the instructions should be recorded. Okay, so first we should read the rules, then we can instruct, we can order our subordinates. Okay, so this may be another purpose, to give instruction, or instruction is another purpose of reading. And the next one is interest. Some people may read because they are interested in reading. Some people may read because they are interested in reading. But that reading material to be interesting. The reading material to be interesting. If the material is interesting, then the people may read. We can say that is based on the interest. Some people may read novels, some people may read dramas, some people may read poetry. Okay, some people may read seriously the newspapers, reports, editorial pages, because they are interested in that. Okay, but some people may read for entertainment. Okay, people read for entertaining themselves, or for pleasure, we can say. By reading, they may get some sort of pleasure. That pleasure is extracted, or the pleasure is gained by reading some books, by reading some articles, by reading some magazines. You can say Chandamama Kathalu, Chatura, Vipula. Okay, in Telugu, these are some magazines which may be interesting, which may stimulate interest, which may entertain even the readers. Okay, so they do not read text to recreate or to reproduce. They just read the text to get the pleasure, right? And then another purpose is to acquire knowledge. Okay, to acquire knowledge. Okay, information is different from knowledge. Okay, this knowledge is maybe academic knowledge. Generally, knowledge is refined information. Refined information is knowledge, right? So people may read for acquiring knowledge. Reading enhances knowledge of the person to effect the refinement of his wisdom, right? Then another one, to develop critical thinking. Some people may read seriously, okay, crime novels or investigative novels, so that their critical thinking may be developed. Even if you read the critical literary criticism, literary critical text, then our critical thinking may be developed. So reading enhances critical thinking ability of a person. Reading enhances the critical thinking ability of a person. It helps him to develop critical attitude towards everything. Okay, critical attitude. Okay, if anyone comes and says that I am a doctor, you have to first you have to examine him whether he is a doctor or not. Okay, if any sage or rishi comes and says something, some prediction, you should not believe blindfolded. We should not believe blindly, right? We have to develop the critical attitude. Even this reading process may develop the critical attitude, no doubt, right? So this development of critical thinking, or the attitude, the critical attitude, activates the brain and thinking process. Okay, so these are the purposes, different purposes of reading. But as a learner of the language, we can have two purposes of reading. Broadly, we can have two purposes of reading. One is reading for perception. Another one, reading for comprehension. Okay. So, as a learner of the language, okay, first your aim may be, your goal may be to read for perception, so that you can acquire the language skill. First, reading for perception. First, we have to recognize the letters and words. When you read the material, when you read the provided material or selected material, first, you have to recognize letters and words. Okay, while teaching reading skill, teachers select the reading material from simple to complex, from concrete to abstract, right? From basic to advanced level. Okay, so anyhow, whatever the reading material you may read, first you have to recognize letters and words. You have to recognize letters and words. Words are recognized on the basis of their shape and appearance. Words are recognized based on their shape and appearance. Okay, here shape and appearance in the sense of the word coat. Okay, how it gives some sense, and how in a sentence it is used. Okay, so this is called pattern perception. How the sound give an impression. What an impression the sound gives. What an impression that written word gives. Okay, so word perception is a skill that depends upon large amount of practice and exposure. Okay, so continuously, if you are exposed to such reading material, then you may develop your word skill of recognition. You may develop your perception skill, right? So word perception is a skill that depends upon large amount of practice and exposure. Okay, if you want to have good word perception, you have to practice and expose. You should get exposure to the such reading material. Okay, this is in this reading you may perceive the word, the spelling of the word, how that word is used in a particular sentence, and what is the contextual meaning of that word, and what are the other dynamic aspects of that word, how it's how or what prominence it has in that sentence, and what is semantic aspect, what is syntactic aspect, what is phonological aspect, and what is morphological aspect. We may study all these things, right? We may find all these things, right? How effective that word is used in that particular sentence. This is what we may perceive if our purpose is perceiving language skill, right? That's why reading for perception. Another one, reading for comprehension. As a student of an academic course, you may need to read some material so that you can reproduce it in the examination. Okay, that's why reading comprehension involves two distinct but related abilities. One is reading, another one comprehension. One is reading, another one comprehension. Two activities involved. Okay, these two are the abilities of an individual. These two are the abilities of an individual. Reading comprehension involves two distinct but related abilities with reading and comprehension. Okay. Then what is comprehension? Comprehension is understanding the meaning. Comprehension is understanding the meaning of a given material, both at a surface level and at a deeper level. Comprehension is understanding the meaning of a given material, both at a surface level and at a deeper level. Okay, when could we find the deeper level and surface level of meaning? If we go beyond the lines and if we are able to read between the lines. If you go beyond the lines, or if you are able to read between the lines. Okay, so that is the comprehension. One should be able to understand what is the surface, what is the meaning of, what is the surface level meaning on the deeper level meaning. Okay. The second wife of the king is good. The second wife of the king is good. Okay, or we can say if the second wife of the king is better. Okay, if you use word better, it is more appropriate to interpret that there is another one. That is the first wife. Maybe first wife is somewhat extent less good than this second wife. Less good than the second wife. Or she may be a bad wife. That is going beyond the lines. Going beyond the lines. Or going beyond reading between the lines, we can say. Right? So dear students, in this, okay, mechanics of reading comprises pronunciation with the stress and intonation. Okay, what are the mechanics of reading that involve? Surely the pronunciation, when you read, pronunciation is important. Okay, pronunciation with a specific stress and intonation. When you pronounce a particular word, when you pronounce a sentence, you should be able to pronounce, or you should be able to utter the sentence with a proper stress and intonation. With proper stress and intonation. And also punctuation, speed, and reading with expression. These three are also important. Punctuation. We should know where to stop. what are the punctuation marks that were given, that were used, and how to stop at comma, at full stop. Okay, and speed is also important. Minimum speed, rapid speed, or a dull. We should maintain the average or moderate speed. And when we read something, we should be able to read with expression. Okay, he said, I'm very happy. He said, I am very happy. He said, I am very happy. That's not. You should express that sentence. He said, he's very happy. He's very happy. You should be able to give such expression properly while reading. Okay, so this is reading for comprehension. We discussed reading for perception, and this is reading for comprehension, right? So dear students, it is very, very important. It's very, very important to know what is the purpose of reading, or else you may not read properly. As a learner of English language, if your purpose is to develop a language skill, better read carefully to perceive the word, the spelling of the word, the contextual meaning of the word, other dimensions of the word. Okay, even you should practice the proper pronunciation. You should practice proper punctuations, stress and intonation, right? By doing so, you can develop your language skill, right? So let us move to another topic. That is, until now we discussed purpose of reading. Now let us discuss types of reading. Let us discuss types of reading, right? Reading may, this is the first classification. Reading may either be extensive or intensive. Reading may either be extensive or intensive, according to the functions and purposes of reading. Based on the functions and purposes of reading, this reading may be either extensive or intensive, right? What is extensive reading and what is intensive reading? Extensive reading is for gaining some specially required information or the gist of a passage, chapter, or a book. Okay, if you want to come up with some certain information or the gist of your book or a passage or a chapter, okay, then or a particular material, then you may come up with a particular gist, or you can come up with a specially required information. Okay, the essence of the book or essence of the chapter. That is extensive reading. You do not practice all the sentences. You do not practice all the information in that book. You may come up with the essential information. That is extensive reading. Okay. In this reading, one develops the habit of reading. In this reading, one develops the habit of reading for pleasure. The habit of reading for pleasure, which involves the ability to read quickly. In this extensive reading, we may be able to read quickly. We may be able to complete the book within a few days or within a few months, even sometimes within a few hours. Right? So this extensive reading develops the habit of reading for pleasure. This extensive reading develops the habit of reading for pleasure. Okay, and So extensive reading helps us to read more reference works. Generally, why do we practice extensive reading? Generally, teacher may teach you something in the classroom. On that particular topic, you may need to collect more information. But you do not read the poem, you do not read the other books as you read the poem, as you read the prescribed test for in your syllabus. You just go through the material and come up with some gist or essential information. Okay, those books what you may refer are reference books, right? So the type of reading necessary to understand and synthesize new or difficult concepts may be classified as intensive reading. When you learn the concept, you do not read the book or you do not read the text like a novel. Okay, you do not read the text like a newspaper. Okay, you have to understand that information. You have to synthesize new or difficult concepts. This type of reading may be classified as intensive reading. What you are going to do in intensive reading, you are going to learn the points or the topics or the information, very careful attitude, in a careful manner. Okay, because you have to remember that information, you have to recite that, you have to reproduce it. Okay, generally, the topics of your syllabus may be read in intensive reading methods, in an intensive reading way. Okay, so intensive reading is concerned with the detailed examination of the text. Okay, so this intensive reading is concerned with the detailed examination of the text to get complete meaning, not the gist, not the essence. We need to get the complete meaning. For that, we have to study every detail. We have to examine every detail. That's why intensive reading is concerned with a detailed examination of the text to get complete meaning. Okay. This type of reading is used most commonly in reading textbooks. This type of reading is used most commonly in reading textbooks and other important materials like court orders and a commission report and other government orders. Okay, if it is a court order, each and every line you should understand carefully. Okay, that's why this type of reading is used most commonly in reading textbooks and other important material like court orders and commission reports, right? So this is extensive reading and intensive reading, right? Now let us move to understand another type of reading, another two types of reading. Again, reading is of two types. This is another classification, that is oral and silent reading. We are very familiar with these two types of reading. Okay, in the schooling, in the initial stage, early schooling, we may be asked to repeat after the teacher. Teacher may teach you something, teacher may pronounce something. After the teacher, we have to recite, we have to repeat the same words to give enough practice in oral reading. And the teachers asked us to read some material loudly in the classroom to give enough practice for oral reading. Okay, so what is oral reading? Okay, generally oral reading is reading aloud. Reading aloud Okay, if you read openly, if you read open your mouth, okay, loudly. If you read loudly opening your mouth, that is oral reading. Without opening the mouth, if you read in your mind, that is silent reading. Without opening your mouth, without uttering anything, if you read in your mind silently, that is silent reading. So oral reading has its own importance and usefulness as a skill. Oral reading has its importance and usefulness as a skill, right? So that's why in the initial stage of our schooling, more practice was given in oral reading rather than silent reading. Okay, in the elementary level or a secondary, even primary and upper primary, and even sometimes secondary level. Okay, so oral reading is a more difficult task. Actually, oral reading is a more difficult task and requires greater effort and a specific attention. Okay, because when we read orally, we should follow proper pronunciation, we should follow punctuation marks, we should understand, we should be able to read with expression. Okay, we should be able to stop, we should be able to follow these punctuation marks, and finally, you should be able to make others understand what you have read. That's why reading orally is not a simple thing. Surely it is a difficult task, more difficult task, and requires greater effort and a specific attention. Okay, so silent reading emphasizes the meaning. Silent reading emphasizes the meaning. Okay, so our purpose while reading silently, we may focus on meaning rather than the pronunciation, rather than the punctuation, rather than this all other mechanics of reading. Okay, we may focus on meaning. That's why silent reading emphasizes meaning, right? In fact, the skill in silent reading, that is, the speed in reading and the comprehension skills are needed only at an advanced stage. In fact, this intensive reading is needed at advanced stage. Okay, so skills in word recognition, understanding, vocabulary, and the ability to comprehend are essential for both oral and silent reading. Okay, so both in silent reading and oral reading, we may focus on, we may develop the following, we may develop such skills, such as, we may develop the skills such as word recognition, understanding vocabulary, and the ability to comprehend, okay, word recognition, understanding vocabulary, and the ability to comprehend the sentences or that reading material are essential for both the oral and silent reading. Okay, an effective oral reading possesses the skills of pronunciation. Okay, so in effective oral reading, it develops the skills of pronunciation, or it includes, or it involves the skills of pronunciation, stress, and intonation. The skills of pronunciation, stress, and intonation, right? Further, a clear articulation, a well-modulated voice, and an eye contact with the audience while reading are additional concerns to the oral reading. These are additional consents to the oral reading. What are they? A clear articulation, a well modulated voice. The voice should be well modulated. It should not be too dull. It should not be too loud. A well modulated voice. And while reading, not all the time look at the book like this. Okay, we have to maintain. The reader has to maintain eye contact with the audience. If he is reading some report in the meeting, okay, in the conference or in the annual meeting, right? So the initial exercises should be on oral reading. The initial exercises for reading skill and the process of reading skill. The initial exercises should be on oral reading, and later should be on, the emphasis should be on silent reading. Okay, at the beginning, at the earlier stage, we have to focus on oral reading, and then we have to maintain, we have to focus on silent reading. Okay, so dear students, in the next class we shall discuss skimming and scanning as reading techniques. Skimming and scanning as reading techniques. Okay, so until then, bye, and try to make notes out of this lecture so that you can learn more. Even you are advised, you are suggested to refer other material on this topic, the purpose of reading and the types of reading, so that you can get the comprehensive information regarding this topic. Thank you, Anand, for patient listening.